Hello again. I must confess that I've been a little puzzled about the theory about vaccines, which suggests that being injected with the one for COVID-19 will somehow enable one to be tracked by the radio masts of the new 5G mobile telephone system. The reason that I find this implausible is that we are all of us already being tracked everywhere by existing systems which we now accept as the background to our everyday lives. I was prompted to think of this by a recent encounter in a shop. I might mention that I don't carry a mobile telephone around with me, so I can't be tracked by that. Even without one, though, any of us can be followed and a complete record built up of what we are doing, where we are going, what we're wearing, what we look like, every aspect of us and our lives. This shows clearly the other day in the incident I'm about to relate how the so-called green agenda is being used to build an even more effective surveillance society in Britain. After purchasing something in the shop, with real money by the way, not using a card or anything like that could enable me to be tracked, I handed over proper cash. I was asked if I had an email address. Now, I thought this a strange question, and being an awkward kind of person, as regular viewers here will have realised by now, I asked why this shop assistant could possibly want to know whether I had an email address or not. The answer was fascinating, and I will abbreviate it. A queue built up behind me because I had to ask supplementary questions to get to the bottom of the business, which didn't make me terribly popular in the shop. Right, the gist of it is because paper receipts need trees to be felled to provide the raw material for them, paper is made of wood pulp, and because there's fewer and fewer trees about than ever, we can help save the planet by having our receipts sent to us electronically instead. I dealt this morning with the ridiculous lie that we are running out of trees on the planet, of course. I politely declined to give details of myself. As I left the shop, though, I thought it would be interesting to see how many cameras had been tracking my presence there. Including 2 outside, covering the pavement, there were 16 closed-circuit cameras following and recording my progress through the shop. My local tube station is Debden. It's a small halt on the far end of the Central Line, former country station of the Great Eastern Railway. Would anybody care to guess how many cameras this little station boasts? A dozen? 20? 30? In fact, this single station had 42 cameras tracking every movement of those using the station. I checked out other railway stations nearby, by the way, also Buckhurst Hill, Loughton, Epping. It's the same situation there. They all have more than 40 cameras. I normally swipe my debit card to pay for tickets these days, which means that I've left a perfect trail to follow as soon as I use the tube network. If the police wished, they could see when I entered the station and then see what I was wearing, how my hair looked, even what I was carrying. Then they would be able to track my progress by looking at other cameras and find out where I got off the train because, of course, the railway trains themselves are monitored. So I'm followed by the cameras in the station, then followed by cameras on the train, and followed by cameras when I get off again. Leaving a station, the same applies, but once in the street, the situation, well, I'd say exactly the same, it's even worse. I once tried to count how many cameras followed me from Debden station to my home, but I gave up after I reached 50. There are outside banks aimed at the pavement there, petrol stations, bars. There's even a suntan lounge near me, for ultraviolet tanning treatments. That too has 2 cameras pointed at the entrances but covering the street as well. If I stop at the supermarket and buy something with my debit card, that too gives anybody wishing to follow my movements a line on me. The mania for demanding information about us has certainly accelerated since the COVID pandemic began, and there can be no doubt about that. I mentioned a few weeks ago that museums and zoos now require one to book online, which means they will know when you enter and their own cameras will at once record your every move. Astonishingly, the same is true of most churches too. My daughter attended Sunday school at the local Methodist church when she was little. The sign outside this church now tells people that if they wish to attend a service, they must book a place online. In the description to this video, I give a link to the church's online booking form to attend church on a Sunday morning. None of this old-fashioned just rolling up at a church and worshipping the Lord. These days you have to decide in advance when you'll be worshipping God and letting the church know ahead of time electronically. Even if you avoid all these things, you can still end up being called out. I was in Greenwich Park a while ago and needed a piss. Guess what? The public lavatories there can only be accessed by either a smartphone or a debit card. True story. I could have been tracked from that point on through the park and surrounding streets simply by my need for a urinal. And Greenwich isn't alone in this. I've since come across this in other places as well. It's an increasing trend. No more spending a penny or even 20 pence. These days you cannot relieve your bladder unless you have a mobile telephone or a debit card. It is for this reason that I do not set any store by conspiracy theories involving the 5G network. Even without carrying a mobile telephone around with you, every movement which you make can already be tracked by the state should it be felt necessary. There really is no escape.